We are starting today with a little 9.5 and 9.7 review. Remember, section 9.5 was all about simplifying square roots, and 9.7 was all about radical equations. So we're going to start off with three little simplify problems. So I want you to try these. All right, so hopefully you felt super confident, and you said that the square root of 48, after you simplify it, becomes 4 root 3. So you either could have gone to prom or you could have done old school. The old school way here would tell you that the square root of 48 is the same thing as 16 times 3. And I know the square root of 16 is 4, and the square root of 3 can't be simplified anymore. The problem number 2, the square root of 175. Hopefully you did this one out and you got 5 root 7. So you could have gone to prom here and broken this down into simplified radical, or I'm sorry, into its prime factorization form, or you could have just done this old school and gotten the square root of 25 times 7, which you know then becomes 5 root 7. And the last one is 10 root 3. All right, on to the next problem. Shoot. Well, these aren't like terms, so we can't add them. Or are they? So for this problem, you have to simplify both the square root of 125 and the square root of 80 first. So go ahead and do that. All right, we're back. So if you square rooted if you did the simplified form of the square root of 125, you should have gotten 5 root 5. And then over here, the square root of 80, you should have gotten 4 root 5. Now you are almost done. So don't forget, you've got to multiply this guy by 2. You've got to multiply this guy by 3. And now this looks like something you can work with. So here you've got 10 root 5 and you've got 12 root 5. And if you add these suckers up, you get 22 root 5. All right, next problem here. So go ahead and solve this one for x. So remember, you are trying to undo everything that's happening to this guy, and there's a lot that's cramping its style. So go for it. All right, hopefully you didn't get too far, because the first thing you did was subtract 5 from both sides, which remember is physically the furthest thing away from x. If you subtract 5 from both sides, you're left with this. Square root of 3x minus 2 equals -3. How can you ever, ever, ever have the square root of something equaling a negative? You can't. So this answer would be NRS. Okay, on to one you can do. Now, this one's a little different. We've got a little squared right here. So we are trying to solve for x. There's a lot that's cramping x's style. So go for it. All right, now hopefully the first thing you did is you subtracted 10 from both sides. So you got 2 times 3x minus 9 squared equals 50. And then you divided both sides by 2. So you got 3x minus 9 squared equals 25. And then we're still trying to get to this x, but now we've got to get rid of this squared. So if I take the square root, remember you are left with the absolute value of 3x minus 9 equals 5. If you let your children go and solve those two equations, you should have gotten, here we go. This is not very dramatic. So you should have gotten x equals 14 over 3 or x equals 4 over 3. Okay, on to the next one. So I want you to go ahead and solve both of these problems for x. I'm going to start with the one on the right simply because that looks a lot like the one we just worked on. So if I take the square root of both sides, and I know I'm going to do that because That's sort of the furthest thing. Remember the furthest thing from this x. So if I take the square root of something being squared, I'm left with the absolute value of 2x plus 1 equaling 3. And I'm going to let my children go. So I get 2x plus 1 equals 3, or 2x plus 1 equals negative 3. I get my two little equations here. I subtract 1 from both sides. I wind up getting that 2x equals 2, so x equals 1. Or I wind up getting that 2x equals negative 4, so x equals negative 2. So either x equals 1 or x equals negative 2. Now let's try the one on the right. So again, we are still trying to isolate this variable. So what I need to do is get what is physically the furthest thing away from my x. So I'm going to undo the square rooting by squaring both sides. So I get 2x plus 1 equals 81. And then subtracting 1 from both sides, I get 2x equals 80. And then we're almost done. Divide by 2, and x equals 40. Whoop, whoop. Cool? All right, on to the next one. So I want you to go ahead and simplify this guy. All right, so hopefully you saw you've got two peeps out at prom so they can multiply. And then you've got two peeps stuck at home so they can also multiply. And you're done. Let's just double check. Amazing. All right, next problem here. Now, wait a second. This one looks a lot like this one, except instead of multiplication, we are now adding. Remember how we talked about addition and subtraction are super high maintenance, super high maintenance. So things need to look exactly alike. And these guys don't. The square root of 2 and the square root of 3 make these not like terms. So this becomes CBS. It cannot be simplified any further. All right, now I want you to try these last 4 problems. I want you to solve for x in these last 4 problems. Okay, we are back, and I'm going to reveal the answers. So hopefully this went well, and you feel pretty confident with all of this. Thanks so much. Good job.